San Francisco CBS anchorman, and his grandparents were at Keetley. So anyway, we'd like to let you know why he's there. He's taking a bunch of film, so you might be on TV. We'll tell you later.
Thank you, Stuart. My name is Ryan Yamamoto. I'm the news anchor and one of the reporters for KPI X5, CBS News Bay Area. Started there in January, so I've been there for about 7 months now. I was in Seattle at Como News for about 6 years. But let me give you a little bit about my background. About 7 years ago, my wife and I completed a documentary out of the Japanese internment camps about Tommy Kono. And if you don't know who Tommy Kono is, he learned how to lift weights inside Tule Lake, and later became the most decorated American weightlifter, one of the greatest weightlifters in history has ever seen. So we were lucky enough to do that about 7 years ago, and that ran on PBS in about 55 different markets. But after we finished that documentary, and we found that it was possible for us to even do a documentary, this story, Keetley Valley, had always been in the back of my head. And I always wanted to do this story, not because it's just a fascinating story and it's an untold story, but it's a personal story. My grandfather, my grandmother, my father, Howard, my auntie Keiko, they were there. It's part of my history. And to be able to tell a personal story and a historical story at the same time would be such an honor. And so when Mary had told us about, hey, we're going to do maybe one last reunion, we were thinking, well, this is it. If we're going to tell the story, we have to do it now. And so I went to my general manager, I went to my news director, and I pitched the story. I said, this is the story about the Japanese internment, but this is the untold story about the Japanese internment. And I highly expected them to say no, because it's going to cost money, we have to travel, and they gave us the full green light, and I was surprised. And then I was worried, because then, oh, we have to do the story now. So we booked the trip, and you see my photographer in the back there, Phil Roma. But if you also notice too, he's shooting everything on an iPhone. So we're kind of our little lab experiments. It's a bit of experiments. We're shooting the documentary as an experimental story also. But I do appreciate everyone here who has shared their stories with us. We don't know what the final story is going to look like right now. We have hours and hours of footage. Rick keeps reminding me how much footage I have to go through. So when we get back, we'll start kind of putting this together. The goal, I think the ultimate goal, is to have a half-hour documentary that will run on some of the CBS platforms. Hopefully we can show it to you also in other forms. But once again, I appreciate everyone sharing your stories. It's been an honor to see all these faces here and see everyone greet each other. And hopefully I'll do this story justice. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.